All right, guys, so this is the next part of the drawing assignment that we're going to be doing. Like I said, you were supposed to have selected your picture, and if I put this together so you can see it in full, you can kind of see that this was my picture that I selected as far as the pieces that I still have. Just because there was a couple of pieces that I had cut from right here, like right here in this section, and since it's blurred out, like it's a blurred out image, it wasn't important for me to keep because I can either just transition or I can change the background completely, okay? I did decide to cut, like if you pay attention to the areas that I cut, the bottom off and the top off, especially because of the words. So try not to incorporate some of those within your image, okay? So now I don't want to throw them away. Like I said last class, you need to hold on to these because as I draw the top, I need something to look at. So that's what my reference is for over here, okay? Same thing for this part that I decided to rip and not cut. I need to save it so I can see all those little details and so forth on the drawing. So the part that you need to get done by today, so by today is going to be to paste your actual picture down. I did recommend last time to use Elmer's glue, not stick glue. Stick glue eventually will pop off, and if you work really hard on this drawing and it comes out really good, well then if this ends up coming off, it's just gonna mess up the whole illusion of the piece. So always make sure that you do use Elmer's glue. The other one that you could use is wood glue. That's another option for you if you choose. But wood glue is another good one that will stay permanent and it's not going to fall off within a couple of years or whatever from the drawing, okay? Because if these come out good, and I have had some in the past where I want to frame and so forth like that, and eventually, like I said, if you're using stick glue, if you ever have, especially with other projects, like in other classes, just for posters and things like that, you do see that those images will fall off, okay? So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take a look at my image and I'm going to say, well, where am I going to want to draw this now? Take in mind, I already know the idea for mine. What I told you guys last time, the reason why I liked these little flowers is because they kind of have these little head areas and it reminds me of a little bit of like little shop of horrors, you know, like where it has the kind of like, I compare it to a Venus flytrap, like, you know, something like a little monster that kind of will like eat bugs and things like that. I plan on having fairies and things like that on this one at the very end of it, kind of more surrealistic and more in the mythical kind of style. So because I know I'm going to do a lot with the top and I'm probably going to have fairies and things like that, like kind of like poking at it and things of the sort, or other animals, I know for a fact that I'm going to want to drag this a little bit lower because where I draw all this stuff, this is where the action is going to happen. And if I paste this too high on my page, I'm not going to have enough space to kind of get what I want. Can I draw more down here playing with leaves and so forth? Yes, but you know, that's not as interesting to me. Maybe the water droplets off here to the side, but I would rather bring this lower, somewhere about right here, where I can still draw a few leaves here or there with the water droplets as well if I needed to add. And then I can still kind of play with the water droplets. I have enough space over here to do something like that, okay? So again, I'm putting this off to the side because I don't want to throw this away. And what you need to do for today, so the object and the goal for today is to get this pasted down on the paper. So think about it, because you know, another thing I could do, everybody keeps doing them like this, which is fine because that's the way I'm doing it because it fits better on screen. Can I do it landscape? Yes. So if I wanted to attach it more like this, that kind of gives me also some area to play. It's just that because I know I want to do more with it in this direction, I myself would rather do it in the direction that I have it right here, okay? But you can choose to do it in a landscape instead of a portrait direction as far as the way you have your paper, okay? That's your choice. So now that I have the areas that I know I want and more or less where I'm going to want to paste it here onto my paper, I'm going to go ahead and start the pasting process. Be very careful with this step. Now, what I recommend is to get a different paper. So another paper, you know, if I want to use, if anything, this one's a little bit more clean. So I'm going to use that one for the drawing. I'll use this one as my base. So if you have another paper, you can have something to put that down on the back side where I'm going to be applying the glue, and I don't get glue like on my table and so forth, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open up my glue, and I'm going to start with the gluing process. Do not put so much, guys. I get kids and they want to, and they attack it, and then when they put it on the other paper, they make a complete mess. So be very careful with that. You'll notice that as I'm applying on those little thin areas, the thin strips, I'm kind of avoiding it. I'm gonna stay away from it. The amount that is recommended is somewhere about here. So you can kind of see the visual. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of swirl it around. I'm not getting too close to my edges just yet. Okay, and this is the best way. I don't want to glop it too much because I have people and they're making big globs and there's no point in doing that. Like spread it already if you have the bottle, okay? Now you can either use the tip of this if you want to kind of spread it around. I like to use my finger a little bit better just because I'm more tactile. Like I like to feel where I'm actually applying the glue. So I'll just kind of slowly go and kind of move this around. The good thing about Elmer's glue is that it doesn't dry so fast. Remember, this is my protective, it's not my final paper. So I'm gonna go ahead, and this is the thing, is that once you start this, so that's why I would recommend that you first make sure that you apply the glue evenly on everything else. And I'm just making sure, like I said, I like using my finger because I can feel if there's enough glue in that spot, okay? And then once I have that, and I know that I have enough and it's pretty much spread around to the point where it should be, then I'll go and I'll put one more layer of glue, just a thin layer. And over here, kind of like closer to the edge only. So I'm just gonna take that strip all the way around. Try to hold it down because the less it moves, the better, because it's not going to get dirty from the opposite side. Okay, and so I just put some on the very edge because what I'm gonna do next is the most important part. Keep it still, and I'm gonna go like this going outward. Now, the reason why I wanna hold it down with one finger as I move across is so that way it doesn't move and I don't get the other side of my magazine dirty. If this is a printout, and remember I said that magazines, I like them because they're coated with that gloss. And so if I end up accidentally getting a little bit of glue on the other side of it, it's no big deal with the magazine. But if you guys are working with printouts, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult. So now that I know that pretty much all of it is set, you can notice it kind of got stuck to my fingers, which is a good thing. Make sure that you have a napkin, honestly, just because your fingers are gonna get dirty. And so if you don't have a napkin, you can just kind of go like this on the clean areas of the paper that was the one that we just used. And then I'm gonna take the drawing one. I remember that I want it a little bit lower, so I'm going to carefully grab without ripping, and I'm going to place it down slowly in the area that I want. And I'm gonna work my way from the middle with a clean hand. So like I said, you should have napkins, but if you have this right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and just drag my fingers across so that way I take off whatever excess glue I have. Usually if you rub them together, that's what I like about Elmer's glue. Rub them together and then you can see all the shavings, but that's okay, those will come off because they're shavings. It'll come off. So you're gonna work from the center and then you're gonna take your finger, now that they're clean, and take it out. So you wanna take it out so that way it sits correctly and flat. And I'm just gonna do this, take it all the way, this one goes up. And that should, I have all these little extras from the glue when I went like this and I was rubbing it off. But if I just take it and, drop it into the trash can, it's pretty much clean, okay? Because that once you rub it, it sticks to itself. It's not gonna stick to surfaces unless I do this and I push on it, okay? So that's pretty much it as far as for pasting. So again, I don't want to throw these pieces away because I got to look at them to be able to draw them. So your goal for today, guys, is to be able to paste the image down onto the sheet of paper. And then you are going to get a pencil and we are going to start drawing the other areas. Now, if you kind of want to know, I don't want people tracing, guys. That's the big thing. I mean, this is a drawing class. I would rather you make the mistake and make it too big or make it too small. And at least you're being honest with yourself and you are going to enhance your actual skill level rather than tracing, and you're not working toward your skill level. If you guys take a different drawing class after this, you're not going to do justice, because by next year, when they're probably going to be all face to face, and not necessarily online, you're not going to be able to pass the class because you're not allowed to trace. So do yourself the favor. And it's like I said in the past, as long as you guys are trying, I'm not going to give you a bad grade. So do it from actually drawing it. Okay. Now, what I will allow you to do, and this is just for placement purposes, if you want to take your pencil, you put your image right here, just so you know how high to go. and I kind of just do this and I make a little mark, that's fine, because all I'm doing is it's just a quick guide. I'm not going to trace the whole thing. I'm just giving myself, okay, how high is this? And then I can kind of just lightly, remember we work with shapes first. So I'm gonna lightly, and look at how light it is. You guys can barely see that. If I go super close, you'll see the line, but as you move away, you shouldn't, okay? So I'm just going to lightly give myself, because I'm taking a look at over here and they kind of fall within this realm. So I'm just going to lightly draw a line just as a guide. I know my stem is starting somewhere here, so I'm just gonna draw a single line that goes up just so I know where the middle is. And again, that's gonna probably get erased, or when I do the shading, that's going to disappear, okay? And then once I have that, now I can start with drawing the oval shapes for where those little flowers are going to lie. You guys are not drawing my flowers. You guys are drawing whatever you are drawing. But you do need that reference to look at, and just, it's the same thing of how I showed you guys before of how to draw. Break it down into shape. All these little areas are just little oval shapes. So I'm gonna draw the placement of those first for me. You guys are not doing it because you should have a different image. But you know, this is why I tell you guys to have your references available and don't throw them away, don't lose them, because I have to be able to look at this to be able to draw it, okay? Some of them are overlapping, like if I pay attention to this, it overlaps a little bit in there, it overlaps a little bit in there. And so my circles should also, the ovals that I'm drawing here, should as also overlap, okay? I have another one that lies somewhere right here. And then there's another one that comes in right here. That's that space that's missing. So once I kind of have a more or less of where all of these are, then I'm just going to go and make my changes of where I'm going to do. These are going to change because I don't want them in the same position. I'm going to turn them into like these little heads, almost like little monster heads and so forth. Now I will only probably draw, I don't know, maybe like one of these as far as to show you how I'm going to change it. And I will be working on camera the next couple of times, just for the sake of the recording. I kind of want to show you just how I'm going to start for this particular part. I am going to screen share very quickly with you guys because I want you to see the other reference that I am going to be looking at, okay? So remember I told you guys that you shouldn't draw it exactly. Remember, think surrealism. So you should have multiple images that you're looking at to create, you know, a whole different image itself. So let me screen share with you guys at this time. I'm going to pick the one that I am. Let's go ahead and share this screen. So you will see that this is what I'm talking about as far as drawing them like little teeth. I want to kind of open them up. They're not the same shape as a Venus flytrap. The Venus flytraps are a little bit, you know, more oval shaped, and this one has a different head, but this one's kind of cool. Like if I see this one. So when I'm looking at this is just to get the idea of how I can possibly draw like the little teeth and so forth like that, that's within them. Do I have to go by just using one? No, I can use multiple ones. You know, this one has that, like you said, it's got a little bug stuck in there already. It's eating it. So, I mean, I don't necessarily, at least in my picture, want to draw like if it's eating a bug, but I do want to draw them with like their mouths open. And like if little fairies, because I will include some fairies along with it, of necessarily like where they are, what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word, where they're being taunted, like they're taunting the actual image and so forth, okay? So I'm gonna stop sharing just because I just wanted to show you that these are kind of like the little ones that I'm looking at. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing. And hopefully it caught that, because I think last time when I screen shared, I did select the correct one. I'm not sure if it did that. So let me just show that one more time with the screen share just in case, because I remember that video had messed up. So I'm going to pick this one, and then let me just move this. Let me stop and screen share one more time, guys. And again, this is just for the video sake purpose, because I want to make sure that, I think it should be this one. So I'm going to screen share, and then you can kind of see that. So this is like, hopefully this, at least if it didn't pick it up the first time, this is what I was talking about, like the little teeth and so forth, just in case it doesn't catch it on the video the first time. Okay. So you can kind of see there, like I said, this one has the little bug in there. I'm not going to draw that one, but you can kind of see over here on this side, some of these, like the little teeth on them. I'm just using these as an idea for whatever I'm going to do for the final. Okay. You can kind of see that on that one too. So I'm going to stop sharing right there. And so now that I know that, and this is what I'm looking at, guys, let me just bring this over for myself so I can see it on the other screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you very quickly of, you know, like how I'm going to turn that into at least on one. So I'll zoom in just so you can kind of see. Let me try to get it to, there we go. So that's on this one, like I said, some of them are going to be like this, but these almost look like they have little mouths opening already. So as I'm gonna draw one over here, I think the way that I'm going to do this, and I'm gonna try to draw this, I'm drawing it darker than I should, guys. But like I said, just because I want you guys to be able to see it on camera, but you do need to keep it as light as possible until you start the actual shading process of it, okay? So I am going to try to stick to the same shape. The only thing is I'm looking at the reference that I have on my computer to kind of see like how they open and so forth. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these into like little mouths. So like I like the way that they have the leaf separation on this one, but so I'm going to draw it like this, but I'm going to draw it like if it has like these little, the little teeth kind of look shape and so forth. And then these are going to be a little bit more closed because it's kind of like that on the Venus flytrap. So this one's a little bit more closed. I'll have like the mouth kind of like right here where these particular ones are. The only difference is as it goes up, these mouths are going to be a lot more open and they're going to be kind of like trying to bite the little fairies and so forth like that. So, you know, this is just my idea. You guys should have your own idea. If you like this particular idea as far as, oh, I kind of like the idea of, you know, the little plants opening, and you're going to do the same concept, change it to make it your own. Okay. That's my only thing that I ask. So on the Venus flytrap, they do have like red in the inside. So this one for sure, I would be doing color and I would incorporate red in the inside. I would do shadowing. I could go by this as far as like if I'm looking at this, you see how it goes dark to light, the little shadow effects and so forth. So I'm going to be looking at both references when I start adding the color. These do have, and they're like attached by a stem. So when I draw this one over here, that stem will go behind this particular one. So I'm just showing you of how I'm transforming it and so forth. Now, for today, so take in mind, guys, for today, your goal is to be able to paste your image, of course, as soon as you're ready, because I've had people before where they prefer instead of pasting it. And if you already did, that's fine. You know, you just continue on there. And that's why I recommend to stay as light as possible with your images. But if you haven't pasted it just yet, I've had people in the past where they'll take their paper. So let me show you an example real quick for those of you guys that have not yet pasted yours. You know, and let's just say this is the one you're using. What they'll do is they'll hold it down and they'll start the drawing process first. Don't tape it, because I've had people say, well, ma'am, can I tape it and try it and then glue it after? I don't recommend doing that, because if you tape it, you could tear your paper. So if you're willing to hold it down and practice and try it and say, hey, I actually like the way it's coming out, now I'll paste it, you can do that as well, okay? So the goal for today is, if you don't paste it, at least get all of your outline on the main part of it. So just the outline only, no shading just yet, guys, because we're going to take this slowly. I don't want people to rush, and you might change your mind. You might change your whole idea. So for me, my goal, for me at least, is to get all of the flowers drawn out, and then maybe start looking at references for my fairies, because how I said, I know I'm going to want little fairies taunting them and stuff like that. And maybe some other little, maybe like dragonflies or things of the sort, is to look, at least look for my reference, okay? I might not necessarily draw the fairies just yet, because that's what I'm probably gonna do next week. But I'm letting you guys know that my goal for today, or at least until this weekend, is to get all of the outline of the flowers that you see here on both of these, okay? That's my goal. So you want to set yourself a goal for today. Look at your image, take a look at it and say, what can I accomplish today as far as for the outline? We're not starting shading yet. It's the outline only. We are taking this step by step so it comes out right, guys. Because I had people where they get ahead of themselves and they start shading it and then they add something else and they're like, oh man, I should have done this. And then they regret shading it because they wanted to do it in color, or they wanted to do something totally different, and that sort of thing. Usually when it's surrealism, guys, it is a slow process. You should take it slowly, because with surrealism, usually as you draw, it evolves as you're drawing it. Okay. So are there any questions related to what is the goal for today? Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording right now, just in case I do have questions and there are students that just don't necessarily want to say it on camera. So let me go ahead and stop the recording.